So this video is going to be on how graphing or solving system of equations can be one solution, infinitely many solutions, or no solution. So in this case, anytime you graph, you have to get it into y equals mx plus b. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this first equation and I'll rewrite it. So x minus 3y equals negative 9. To get y by itself, I'm going to subtract x on both sides. So I get negative 3y is equal to negative x minus 9. I'm going to divide by a negative 3, and I'm going to make sure I divide each term by negative 3. So I'm going to get y equals a positive 1/3 x plus 3. So that's my first equation. And then I'm going to find my second equation, which would be x minus y equals a negative 1. I'm going to subtract x on both sides. So I have negative y equals negative x minus 1. I'm divided by a negative 1 because I still got to get y by itself. So I have y equals a x plus 1. So these are my two equations. So now I'm going to use my first equation to plot my first line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go at my y-intercept, which is 3. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go up 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3. Up 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go down 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3. Down 1 to left, 1, 2, 3. So that's my first line. Then I'm going to graph my second line, which is x plus 1. So I'm going to start at 1 on my y-axis. I'm going to go up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, and I actually intersect at this point. So I'm going to draw my line. So my solution would be 1 because it intersects at 1 point. So my solution would be 3, 4. So this is an example you have seen before where we get one solution. Now these are going to be different types of solutions. So you still have to get it into y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to write my first equation, x minus y equals a negative 4. I'm going to solve for y. So I subtract x on both sides. So I get a negative y equals a negative x minus 4. I divide both sides by negative 1, or all the terms. So I have y equals a positive x plus 4. So that's my first equation. My second equation, I have negative 3x plus 3y equals a negative 6. I add 3x to both sides to get y by itself. So I have 3y equals 3x minus 6. I divide all the terms by 3. So I get y equals x minus 2. Now, if you notice with these two equations, you have the same slope but different y-intercepts. Anytime you have the same slope, you're going to notice that they are parallel lines. So they're never going to intersect. So anytime you have parallel lines, that means no solution. So I'm going to first graph my line at, I'm going to start at 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. I'm going to go down 1 to the left 1, down to the left, down to the left, down to the left, down to the left, and so forth. So there's my line. There's my first equation. My second equation, I'm going to start at negative 2, so I'm going to go down 2 on the y-axis. I'm going to go up 1 to the right 1, up and to the right 1, up and to the right 1, so forth. I'm going to continue my line. If you notice, they are a parallel line. So my answer in this case, if I ever had this graph, it would be no solution. So you would want to write that on your paper next to the graph. So if the slopes are the same and they have different y-intercepts, that's how you know they are no solution. Now the last one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get y by itself because I want to put in y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to subtract x on both sides. So I have 3y is equal to a negative x plus 6. I'm going to divide all the terms by 3. So I have y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2. So that's my first equation. My second equation, I'm going to solve. So I have negative 2x minus 6y equals negative 12. I add 2x on both sides because I want to get y by itself. So I have negative 6y equals 2x minus 12. Divide both sides, or all the sides by negative 6, all the terms So I have y equals 2 divided by negative 6 is a negative 1/3 x plus 2. Now, if you notice, both of these equations are the same line. So what happens is you really only have to graph one line because they would be directly right on top of each other. So if I went up 2 to the y, my y-intercept of 0, 2, and then I would go down 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3, down 1 to the right, 1, 2, 3, I would go up 1 to the left, 1, 2, 3, and so forth, and I have my line. Now, I wouldn't have to graph a second line because if you see, this is the same equation, so my answer would be infinitely many solutions. Because that means that any point on this line is going to be a solution to my graph. So any of these points, if I plug them in for x or y, they would work. Infinitely many, so that would be my final answer.